Week 2 of the PFL Challenger Series is set to go down on Friday, February 3rd, and we are going to see 8 of the top women compete for a contract in PFL's featherweight division. But first, they're not only going to need to win their fight, they're also going to need to impress my next guest. He's a 6-time UFC champion, and he is a UFC Hall of Famer, and he happens to be one of my favorite martial artists of all time. He joins me today. He's the natural, Mr. Randy Couture. Randy, thank you so much for being here. Pretty neat to see you fight back in 2000 when I was a young E1, E2, E nothing, and me and 40 of my best friends would pool our money together to watch you fight.
Well, thanks, Tyler. I appreciate that, man. That's very cool. And thanks for your service as well.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Challenger Series construct. A lot of the people out there who watch my show are young amateur fighters, and they've been talking to me back and forth about the Challenger Series and what a huge opportunity this is. These kids are in such a great position. They're primed for all of this opportunity, but before they can get and ascend to this level, I think there are probably some things that they should probably try to tick off on their resume and maybe try to accomplish as young fighters. I'd love to get your perspective. What are some of the tips that you would give some of these young amateur fighters that are trying to maybe compete on the Challenger Series one day?
Well, first, they're in the right place. When I started this sport, there was no such thing as amateur MMA. So now there are a bunch of amateur organizations out there that are giving these athletes an opportunity to get their feet wet, to figure out where their holes are, where their conditioning's at, where their mentality, the psychological skills it takes to deal with the adversity of this sport are, tactically and technically, where they might have some strengths and weaknesses, and then focus on those weaknesses and shore those up and make those strengths. That's the beauty of the amateur organization. I think, on paper, you look at some of these athletes that come into the Challenger Series and you might scratch your head and think, man, he's only got 4 fights. He probably shouldn't be competing at this level. But then you look at the athletes that came out of last season, and many of them had low fight records, but a lot of amazing talent. Carlos Leal came all the way through to the regular season, got the contract, got all the way to the semifinals before he finally came up a little short. Dilano Taylor out of the Challenger Series all the way to the final. And came up a little short in the final, but what an amazing talent. And that's, I think, what this Challenger Series does. It gives us an opportunity to ferret out new young talent that deserves to be in an organization like the PFL, gives them a place to ply their wares, show their skill sets, and prove to everybody that they do deserve to be there and that they have the capability. So stay focused, keep smiling. This sport is supposed to be fun. If it wasn't fun, why in the hell would we do it? And go out there and do exactly what you trained to do.
Absolutely. And you hit on something, Champ, that I think is super important, Dilano Taylor. For people who aren't familiar with him, it's an amazing story. It was not that long ago. I was watching him compete in Titan FC. I saw what he was able to do, and I thought to myself, way back when, and this would have been November, December of 2020, special kid, I want to see what he's capable of doing. Flash forward a few months, he finds himself on the Challenger Series. And in a 9-month window, he goes from the Challenger Series to getting a title fight against Sadibou Sy. That's pretty incredible. And when I sit back and think about it, that in a major MMA organization, that's like unheard of in this day and age. And that's wild to think about. And I wanted to get your perspectives, like if there's somebody out there that maybe just got signed onto PFL over the past year or two, what are maybe some things that they could do if they're trying to emulate what he was able to accomplish in such a short amount of time with the organization?
Yeah, I think just stay focused and keep embracing the grind, keep working, and you're going to get the nod. You're going to get that opportunity to show what you're capable of. That's exactly what Dilano did. In many ways, it was like watching a Cinderella story unfold. It was like a Disney film happening right before your eyes. It was very, very cool. I think the closest thing I can relate it to is that first season with the Golden Knights here in Las Vegas, and the hockey team franchised, making it all the way to the Stanley Cup final in their very first season. So, a remarkable experience, and he did an amazing job. And he was every bit in that fight against Sadibou Sy. He did a great job. Sadibou trains with us and had been in, 4 consecutive seasons and not had, he's been knocking on the door, but that was his opportunity in his year to go out there and win the title. Tough one for Dilano, but Dilano did a great job of showing what he was all about.
And I thought he won, even though the result didn't go his way. I thought he won because it was a huge he won in the sense that he got a huge opportunity, and I thought he proved that he belonged. And he's still got so much MMA left ahead of him. I think it's
Absolutely.
only going to benefit his career moving forward.
Absolutely.
Champ, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about kind of the pressure cooker, the boiler room that is the Challenger Series. I don't think enough thought is put behind this, and it's really important. I spoke with Elvin Espinosa. He is a lightweight, and he's going to be headlining the card here in a couple of weeks.
Uh-huh.
And when I interviewed him, I talked to him. I was like, "You have these judges that are in there that are watching you. You have the people at home that are watching you, and you also have to focus on your fight, and you have to win. That's a lot of stuff to like take in at the same time. And if you're not careful, that could like really kind of screw with you if you're thinking about it too much in the ring. And I'd love to get your perspective. Like, how do you try to like balance that approach where it's like I have a game plan I need to execute and I need to win, but also at the same time I want the judges to like me. I want the people at home to like me too. Is there a healthy balance in your mind?
Yeah, I don't think you can worry about that external stuff. I think he has to worry about what's going on inside of you. You're talking and exactly about the mental skills that it takes to deal with the adversity of this sport, and that's going to ramp up every level up as you move up in from whatever organization you've been fighting to. Now you're stepping up into the Challenger Series, potentially getting into the PFL. You know, the tension, the pressure, the eyes that are going to be on you, all that is going up, and so this is where you're fighting in these lower organizations or these amateur organizations where you're developing the skills and the framework to put yourself in the right headspace to be able to go out there and embrace that grind, embrace that pressure and those challenges, not get caught up in the hype, not get caught up in the speculation of it. Stay grounded, keep the people around you that matter the most, that don't care whether you win or lose. They just want you to see you pursue your passion with everything that you have. Those are the ones that matter. Let all the rest of them go. The problem with fans is you're only as good as your last fight. They have a tendency to be fickle. So don't get caught up in that nonsense. Stay focused on what matters. The people that are got your back, win or lose, those are the ones that matter. And let the rest of it go. That's a mental skill you have to learn. And yeah, you can't get all caught up in the hype because you're going to have that big adrenaline dump before you ever walk out of that tunnel. And now you're going to wonder why I did a great camp. Why am I so tired? Why are my legs numb? You know, again, this is all part of that proving ground. And, you know, now there are amateur organizations where you can ferret out a bunch of these potential pitfalls and shore some of that stuff up before you walk into a Challenger Series or a PFL regular season. So yeah, it's a big ask for some of these kids, 3, 4, 5 fights under their belt, and they're walking into a Challenger Series now on TV with a chance at a crack at a title in a major organization, ultimately ending in $1 million purse and a title belt. Holy hell. Talk about a butt pucker.
It is absolutely, but at the same time, it's you're professional, and these are the moments that you train for. You have to take advantage of this opportunity. And if you're unable to, this might not be the sport for you. This is a pressure cooker.
Exactly right. And you see that a lot in the amateur divisions. People get to weigh-ins and they like, man, what am I doing here? I don't think that I signed up for something I don't think I'm not really into. So if you don't have that genuine passion for this sport and mixed martial arts in your heart, you are in the wrong place. This is a tough way to make a living.
Yes, sir. It absolutely is. And for these 8 contenders that are trying to make a living in the PFL, this week 2 matchup, wow, there's a slate of some really interesting talent on here. I'd love to get your thoughts. Is there maybe 1 or 2 of these matchups that you find really compelling?
Well, I'm excited to see this young female from Mongolia that came from the judoka world. And obviously, we've seen some very successful people transition from judo to mixed martial arts. And certainly the poster child for the PFL, Kayla Harrison, is one of those. And I think a stellar example of that. Caro Parisian is another one of those judo practitioners that used his judo very, very effectively in his fighting style. Certainly, we saw Ronda Rousey wade through 9 or 10 folks with arm bars and take their arms home with her after those fights. And it wasn't until she kind of strayed away from that judo background that she got caught and got herself into trouble. So, I think I'm excited to see her. And then there's one more country. I don't think we've had a Mongolian competing for the PFL. Kazakhstan, we broke some barriers there with some Kazakhstani fighters that have never had a Kazakhstani fighter either. So again, I think one of the things where the PFL in many ways is setting the trend is ahead of the curve.
It really is a compelling matchup. And from Amanda Levy's perspective, we all know what she's capable of on the ground. She's an accomplished BJJ practitioner. We all want to see the striking, though. Did it get cleaned up? Can she avoid some hits? We'll see. But the last time out, there were some glimpses of her that she was able to demonstrate, I feel. And it's a really compelling matchup. What's going to happen? We'll see.
Because I think that and I would pronounce her name if I thought I could get it right. It's a very challenging name, but because she comes from that solid grappling background, that negates some of that jiu-jitsu that she has used it as advantage in fights going, and she's going to have to rely on her striking for this one.
Absolutely. Randy, I have one final question for you, and it's probably the most important question out of all the ones I've asked tonight. In terms of getting your vote, what do these fighters have to do to get you to sign off on them? I would imagine there's probably some prereqs, a checklist in your mind of sorts, things that you want to see these women accomplish and perform in order to get your vote. Can you maybe share with us what are some of the things that you're thinking about? What are some of the things that you want to see before you will give your thumbs up on any of these gals?
Well, obviously, their demeanor, coming into the fight, are they uptight? Are they nervous? Do they seem like the cat on the hot tin roof? Or are they settled and grounded and confident walking out there? Those are all things I'm evaluating as a fighter, as I'm looking at a guy I'm supposed to compete against. And I'm looking at those same things that these athletes, as they embrace this grind and walk out of that, into that arena, into that cage. And then after that, it's the skill sets that they bring and how they execute and how they engage in that fight and make things go their way, deal with the adversity of potentially things not going their way and turning that around. I mean, those are, again, all those things that you evaluate in any fight and any fighter. And this is their opportunity to step out there and show everybody what they got now. And yes, it is a pressure situation. That's part of the sport. So you're looking for those people that are able to step up and deal with that and take all that in stride, still smile and go out there and execute exactly what they trained to do.
Yes, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. You heard it from the man himself. You'd be wise to heed these words. Mr. Couture, thank you so much for being here. It was a real honor, a real treat to have you. I hope to have you back one day in the near future.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate you, man. Have a great day.